Alright, hi guys, it's your boy Rich here, back at it again, and I'm still working on that PWS event footage. But from that great evening, I remember some terrific conversations, some of which would make a really good show. And one of the interesting topics was, will Swiss-made watches, ooh, I almost said Will Smith, I just did, will Swiss-made watches ever be finished in China on the level? And this idea also came from viewer Dan. And we know that according to the Swiss Federation that at least 60% of the Swiss watch needs to be assembled in Switzerland to qualify for the Made in Swiss label. But that still leaves a whopping 40% of unknown origins. Actually, we probably already knew that those 40% probably represents from China, Malaysia, the Philippines, maybe Italy. But that's such a staggering amount. There are already a ton of products and companies that do the split manufacturing. We know about the automobile business where they'll build the bulk of the car, the engine, in those countries, and then they'll be finished or assembled in the US. For example, Nissan, a Japanese car, actually has a plant in Nashville, Tennessee. We also know about electronic products such as Apple, where they were conceived in Cupertino, California, but they are made in China. And they have such perfect quality control that every product that leaves the Apple factory in China is flawless. They are absolutely perfect. Sorry, Apple haters, but it's true. Apple products are exceptionally well made. So, would Swiss watches follow this same business model? Well, it would make sense for entry-level watches. So let's just use Omega and Breitling as an example. They would actually still continue the same process of manufacturing those watches, but on the up and up, on the level, have them finished in China. And the purpose of that is so they can sell those watches at a more affordable price. And I say entry-level because this could benefit the watches in the $4,000 to $7,000 segment versus those who can afford to spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 on a watch. The savings up for them is not that significant. And that's okay because those are not the most important segment of any watch brand. Just like, for example, Mercedes-Benz's S-Class. Very few people or fewer people can afford to buy that for $150,000 versus their entry-level C-Class. The same with BMW. We see more 3 Series than we do 7 Series. That's the same thing with watch brands. Their entry-level models is their flagship versus the higher, most expensive lineup of watches. And if the watch manufacturers can do this and make the price a lot more affordable, let's say $1,000 to $1,500 less if those watches are finished in China to the exact same standards as the Swiss, then we're talking maybe $1,000 to $1,500 less for an entry-level watch. And that, coupled with whatever we can negotiate further, would make a huge difference. I know it would for me. So if I was interested in a $5,000 watch and it was now $3,500, and then whatever else on top of that I would negotiate, that would be a big difference for me at that entry-level price point. But the quality of the finishing would have to be absolutely perfect, to the point where the president of the watch company can't tell the difference. You and I can't tell the difference because they are exactly the same trained with the same machinery. And if you can't tell the difference except in a price point, then that would make a difference. And the watch manufacturers would have to be clear on this. None of that murkiness, none of that shadiness of the other 40% of those Swiss watches, where those movements or parts come from. They would have to be on the up and up saying that this is our Swiss watch and it's finished in China. And as a result, where you can't tell the difference physically, it's a more affordable watch. I also don't want to minimize the importance of a well-finished watch. For the hardcore watch fanatics, the soul of the watch is in its movement, but they're in a minority. For most of us, we don't care about the movement. We only care about how the watch looks and are we attracted to it. So as long as that watch that's finished in China is of the exact same quality as its Swiss brother, to where the only difference you can tell is in its lower price tag, then I think that will go a long way at selling a lot more entry-level watches. To clear up any naivete for those of us who think that the Swiss watch industry and the Chinese watch industry are adversaries, they are not. They are allies because the Swiss watch industry relies on China for half of their needs. And that's not going away anytime soon. And so if this marriage actually took place, who would benefit more? Well, in the short run, the Swiss are going to benefit more because they're going to be able to sell a lot more entry-level watches at the new lower price tag, while China learns a new skill set, something that they can maybe use for their existing watches or to develop their own line of watches. But China also has quite an uphill battle because of all the murkiness that goes on within their own country. So if they can get past that and use this new skill set, then they can benefit from this, but not until the long run. Do I think this will happen? Well, it's happening, or it's headed in that direction. Most of us are aware that ETA is a Swiss movement, but fewer of us are aware that they licensed China to also make the ETA movement. Not a clone, but an actual ETA movement. So it is headed in that direction. I'm also going to cite the fashion industry. For example, Armani. Most of us are aware that Armani is a luxury fashion house, but they also make clothes in India. I have a few Armani pieces. I have an Armani leather jacket, and it's made in India. And according to Armani, it's every bit an Armani, even though they invested in a factory in India. Now, if I took off that label where it says made in India, there's no way that I could tell that that jacket is not made in Italy. It's the same quality as the other Armani clothings that I have. So as long as the quality of the watches finished in China are on point, along with honest and clever marketing by the watch companies to where we don't feel we're getting an inferior product, then I think the idea of selling a lineup of watches at a more affordable price versus the ones finished in Switzerland can work. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Will Swiss made... With all the counterfeiting and murkiness, China has quite the UFC battle. Of course, this would require a lot of training, but properly done, and this could be done.